What's up, guys? It is Greg is Fun. I am here today doing kind of little proof of concept type of video. I'll tell you at the end of the video what the concept is that I'm trying to go for. But the proof of concept is going to take me showing you the best deck that I have played in a while. And I will make the slight caveat here that this is not necessarily going to be the most meta deck. This is not necessarily going to get you the most wins, but I cannot properly put into words how fun it is. This deck that you are seeing here is the original Rachel Carter Quest. Fantastic YouTube creator. Definitely go check her out. There's going to be a link to her channel in the description. There's also going to be a link to this deck in the description if you want to check it out. But here is what she came up with, and she has a fantastic video about the math that goes into this particular deck. How consistent is it, and how do we take it and make it work? And I just cannot properly put into words how much fun I have been having with this deck. I think it is absolutely phenomenal. But I did take it and I did a little bit of a tweak, so I just want to show what my version is, and my version is quite simply what you're seeing here. This is Rachel Carter Quest's Dumb Chicken with a Twist. Okay, so what are the differences between her deck and my deck? We'll get into that, and we'll talk about how this all works. Let's start off with that, because I think that that's the most important thing. How does this deck work? Well, you might have noticed that it is called Dumb Chicken, and it is called Dumb Chicken for a reason. It is called Dumb Chicken because it is really, really dependent upon Hey Hey. More specifically, this Hey Hey. This is Hey Hey Expanded Consciousness, and if you look at it, you might think, oh, the 5 cost 1/5, the quest for 2. That surely is not all that. That's surely not anything that we want to hang our hat on. Oh, but it is, because that is instant ramp. That Hey Hey right there is more often than not going to get you up to 7 ramp. And it is going to be 7 ink. And it is going to be so good. Because anything else in this deck, you can play for that 7 ink. You have access to all these big characters, and you are just going to have a ton of fun. So, as you probably guessed, it is a bit high roll. It is a bit high roll, but I will tell you that I played it 4 or 5 times at my locals, just trying to have some fun games with folks. I bricked once. What does a brick mean in this context? Well, a brick means that in your altar, or when you do alter your hands, you don't get this Hey Hey, you don't get this Hey Hey, and you don't get this Hey Hey. You are going for one of these guys and this guy, and then it just works. In an ideal situation, when you're doing your altar, in an ideal situation, you want to get as many of these guys plus this guy as possible. Alternately, if you don't and you miss, you need to develop your brain and or vision of the future. Okay, develop your brain. 1 cost action that look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand. I'm sorry, it's kind of cut off there. Put 1 into your hand and the other on the bottom of your deck. Vision of the future, 2 cost. Basically do the same thing with 5 cards. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. That is going to help you go through and try to find the cards that you need. It's fantastic later on if you really want a specific big player, but if you miss, this is going to be your lifeline. You need that. So in addition to just making sure that we get the hey-heys, I think it's important to also to talk about your curve. And more specifically, there are 3 very important ink points. Okay? 3 ink, 5 ink, 7 ink. 3 ink is very important because that means that you have either hey that costs 1 Rambling Rooster or hey not so tricky chicken. And then you're able to shift in hey expanded consciousness. And then you're just going to take every card in your hand and it is now in your ink well. And that's how you did it. If you're doing it at 3 ink, let's figure this out, shall we? Okay, so you start with 7 cards. You've done your altar. You have your 7 cards to start. If you are on the play, you play hey, the Rambling Rooster, and then you move on. Okay, it's your opponent's turn. Then, assuming nothing else happens, assuming you don't use a develop, you don't use a visions or anything like that, you ink a card. You might play a card. Okay? But you also drew a card because, again, we're on the second turn. So now, you're sitting at 5 cards. Next turn, you draw, but then you ink. You play your other hey, you shift your hey. That means 4 more cards going into your inkwell. That is 7 ink. Okay? Those 4 cards going in your inkwell are going to unlock the rest of the deck. So you definitely need big hey and your little hey. But if you miss that, let's say you miss that and you miss your visions or your develop your brain. Let's say you miss the shift target. That's where 5 is the next critical ink point. However you get it, and whether there's someone somehow gets a spooky side or something like that, just that ramps you in that way. You need 5 ink in order to play hey without the shift target. Again, this deck really needs hey. If you're getting to 5 ink and you still don't have the hey, then I'm sorry to say you've bricked and you're having a rough time. But there are other awesome cards at 5 ink as well. The Pluto Steel Champion. I cannot tell you, right now I am feeling that this is the best card in the game. Items have been an absolute menace. Absolute menace. And whenever you play another steel character with him on the board, you can banish a chosen item. That's how you get by burn. That's how you get by, a Tamatoa deck. That right there, it happens all the time. I mean, look at how many steel characters there are in this deck. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 if you count the Pluto. 9 times 4, 36. That's over half the deck is steel. So if you get him out and he's able to stay out, you're going to be doing that. You're going to be able to do that trigger. But also, during your turn, whenever one of your other steel characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore. And here's the fun part, that can stack. So if you were to get 2 Plutos out, you would have that stack as well, and you would just be racing toward the finish. Other awesome 5-cost cards, we have Jasmine, the Fearless Princess, who is amazing because on your turn she's evasive, so she can go and challenge those big evasive threats. She also, if you discard a card, she can gain Challenger 3. She's a 3/7 that quests for 2. She can attack as a 6/7, and that's really good. Now, I will say that your cards are going to be at a premium, so you might not be using the Challenger ability all that often. That said, it's really nice to have it when you can. Scar. Scar is in here primarily for card draw. Who are our allies? We have Pluto. We have Tinkerbell, Aticia, Vincenzo Santorini. I believe that's it. Nope. Here's more. Here's more. I mean, you're probably not going to be using the Scar for the Hey-Heys because you draw up to their strength and then you discard 2. But Scar, finally king, also gives an extra strength, so you can banish one of those characters and you will also end up getting just, you'll get a card. So yeah, Scar is going to be primarily there for card draw, and he's absolutely bonkers. Moving on from the 5-drops, the next critical point is 7 ink, which again, you really are hoping to get through the Hey-Hey's ability. But if you get to 7 turns and you you're inking at that point, then it's going to be a rough time. You're going to have a hard time doing what you want to do, but at the same time, you are still now in striking distance. You have unlocked your Hades, your Vincenzo, your Aticia, and that is... These guys are all amazing. You know what Hades does. He puts one of your opponent's characters in their inkwell. Vincenzo, he's got a good body, and he quests for 3, which is phenomenal. But also, when you play him, deal 3 damage to the opposing character of your choice. And then Aticia is a 7/7 vanilla, but she quests for 3, and she is an ally. So that's more cards for Scar. So, again, we want to get Hey-Hey. We want to shift Hey-Hey. We want to set ourselves up. At that point, you don't even need to be doing any additional inking. You can. It's always great to have additional options. It's always great to potentially be able to play a second character on your turn, but it's not necessary. Other card draw, of course, we've got Doc the Bold Knight. Nothing in your hand, which is going to be the majority of your situation because, again, Hey empties your hand. But you top deck the Doc and you're feeling good because you're just filling your hand up. You got 2 more cards and you can play any of them. Robin Hood over here is a cantrip. You play him and you're probably not going to have a hand, so you're probably going to be facing off against someone who does. So you're probably going to be getting a card, which is great. He's also evasive on your turn, which is, really important if you do have an evasive threat on the other side that's just being a menace to you. But in and of himself, 4/4 quests for 2 is not bad. And then, of course, Goliath, who is a permanent Doc. I can't say enough about Goliath either. He's fantastic. Permanently able to draw 2 cards is incredible. Is incredible, and it really causes problems for Amethyst decks, which you're seeing so much of. So it's really, really good. So again, what we need to do: get the Hey, shift the Hey, and have lots of options of fun. So the cards that I swapped in I swapped in Scar and I swapped in Aticia. Now, Rachel's deck had Sir Ector, which is a 7/7, a 7 cost, 7 strength, 10 willpower character that also quests for 3. I put in Aticia as the analog because Aticia is an ally and Sir Ector is a knight. So he has the potential to feed Scar, which is, I think, very, very important. I also swapped in Scar for the Mufasa. I thought that Mufasa was great, but the fact that you can't just play him off of your Hey trigger is it's problematic for me. It slows things down a little bit. So I felt like it was a good switch. I love Mufasa. I think Mufasa is a fantastic card. I think that the whole concept behind the Mufasa, where you exert your inkwell, you get 2 cards back to your hand, and then you're able to quest with Mufasa, who quests for 4, and then you ready your inkwell so you can potentially play 2 cards on your turn, 2 big cards. I think that that's absolutely incredible. But I was finding that I was whiffing more often than not. Put in the Scar, got a little bit of card draw, and I felt like once we had everything under that 7 threshold, it really started to crank, and I really thought that it had a lot of potential, which I really hope that you guys will give this deck a try. I really hope that you will, again, go check out Rachel's video on her deck. She does a fantastic job of explaining things far better than I am. So definitely do check her out. But I did also want to just talk about, there are some other cards that I think would go really, really well in here. Cards that I think are worth trying out, cards that I think that are worth potentially swapping in after you've done a little bit of testing to see what is going to work best. So let's start off with this Jasmine. Jasmine, the inspired researcher. Sorry, it's a little small for my very old eyes. So 5 costs, 3/5, quests for 2, extra assistance. Whenever this character quests, if you have no cards in your hand, draw a card for each ally character you have in play. So that should be a trigger that happens fairly often, because again, your cards are at a premium. You probably are not going to have a fully stocked hand. I think that's very unlikely. So yeah, having that extra card draw is really pretty nice. Next up, we have Jafar. Now, full disclosure, this is also a card that Rachel had put in a later version of her Dumb Chicken. Mine is based off of version 3. She also did another one that she was talking about bringing with her to Ghent. And this card was in there. Fixed cost, 0/7 with Challenger 7, quests for 2. And also this ability, it breaks my brain a little bit to think about it. Opposing characters with cost 4 or less can't challenge. Do you know how much of the meta is 4 cost or less cards right now? I mean, think of just Blurple. You have the Royal Guard or Rafiki. You have Captain. Well, Captain Hook would be Purple Steel, but stay with me. Tipo is always going to be out. Tipo can't quest, or excuse me, can't challenge. Not that you're probably going to be using him for challenging, but stay with me. Genie costs 4. Iago. I mean, you're not probably challenging with Dumbo, but Dumbo can't challenge. I mean, all of these things are just nuked for the purposes of interacting with your board, and this very quickly devolves into an aggro just race to 20. All of the characters over here, the Atizia, the Vincenzo, so much just have high lore total, and you're just racing, and you're getting to the 20. But Jafar is a really, really good option that I think can really be helpful for dealing with your opponent's board. Speaking of which, card that doesn't interact with your opponent's board very much, but I think that Treasure Mountain is really, really good. It fits in with our 7 or under threshold. 9 willpower on a location is very, very good. And since we're spending 5 on it, the 2 move cost is not going to phase us too much, because we should have 7 ink, which will allow us to move a character in. At the start of your turn, deal deal damage to chosen character or location equal to the number of characters here. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, particularly because it's going to take so many resources for your opponent to take out a 9 willpower location. And it gets you 2 lore every turn. That's so good. That's so good. And then a card that kind of jumped to mind because I thought, oh, this needs to be a thing, is this one right here. Wreck-It Ralph Ham Hands. 6 cost, 4/4, quest for 3. Whenever this character quests, you may banish chosen item or location to gain 2 lore. Not only are you now able to have even more control over your opponent's items, i.e., they don't just do what they want, you get rid of them. You're gaining lore for it, which is phenomenal. But also, it's not just items, you can do it with locations. There's a lot of talk of locations coming out into the Winter Spell meta. And probably not a bad card to have. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's only like, I don't know, a couple bucks. Definitely one I think that people should not sleep on. But speaking of Winter Spell, there's 2 cards that I think are absolutely phenomenal and I think are worth testing out in this deck, particularly once Winter Spell releases. First up being John Smith. John Smith is a 5-cost 3/6 with Bodyguard that quests for 2, and do your worst. Opponents must choose this character for actions and abilities if able. Guys, that is so good. You're racing to 20, you need a little layer of protection, and John Smith will do that. John Smith will do that. It's insane. This card is so good. Your opponent's deck revolves around support. Well, it's all going to John Smith. They want to use their Thunderbolt. Well, it's got to go to him, but he survives. You know, the ability here that forces your opponent to target him with that kind of a body, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And again, it's going to protect your other characters who are then going to have more opportunity to get you that lore, do whatever else that they want. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then, speaking of super duper incredible cards from Winter Spell, here's the one I think really needs to go in the deck. Moana. Guys, for real. Like I've been saying throughout the entire video, your cards are going to be at a premium. However, you're probably going to have stuff in your discard. 5 cost, 4/4, quest for 2. You can ink cards from your discard. You're not questing. You're not attacking. You're not challenging. You're just leaving her ready on your board. And you are now inking, getting additional ink, which is just going to get you to play more cards, move cards. If you put in Treasure Planet, it's just so good. It's just so good. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I probably should have put I probably should have gotten the share link that has the QR code and stuff for this deck, but I'll go ahead and link it down in the description of the video. Yeah, please give this deck a try. I think that you are going to have a ton of fun. Be forewarned, again, it is very much a high roll deck, but I think that it is going to high roll far more than it is going to let you down, and your opponents are going to have a hard time dealing with that output of power. It's so much fun, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. So this has been a bit of a proof of concept, like I was saying, and I would really love to hear what you think down in the comments. What worked well? What could be improved upon? I know I definitely rambled quite a bit, But there's a lot to talk about because it's so much fun. But what I'm planning to do when the Winter Spell meta comes out is I think that what I want to do is I want to just make a deck. I want to play it, and then I want to report back on it. I want to show you guys what I've been doing. I want to talk about how it's performed, and I also want to talk about, well, what are the changes that I have made and planning on making and so forth, so that you can see the deck progress. I just want to call it my deck progression series. So yeah, I'm hoping to do that, and I'd love to hear from you. But guys, definitely do go over, check out Rachel Carter Quests. She's far better at all of this than I am. Her videos describing how to play decks, how to think about things and so forth are absolutely phenomenal. She's literally the only reason why I know how to play Blurple and Control in general. So yeah, definitely check her out. That's it for me, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.